All right, another question related to the Occupy movements is not just what will happen, but how it will be covered by the media. Well, it took a few weeks for most media outlets to send in the camera crews to cover Occupy Wall Street as a serious movement. Even when they did, they had their own interpretations. Here's Sean Hannity on his show on Fox News Channel last night.
We are dealing with part of the global socialist movement.
What have we seen here? Violence, rape, arson, destruction of property, sex in public, masturbation in public, naked people, drugs, drug paraphernalia, anti-Americanism, anti-Semitism, anti-capitalism.
Well, there are many people who say when the mainstream media does cover it, they have it all wrong, that they haven't put in the time or the effort to understand what Occupy Wall Street is all about. Among those people, Axel Caballero, founder of Cuentame. Hey, Axel, you recently wrote a column, it appeared in the Huffington Post, and you say, referring to the media, that their interest is to present a lazy, disorganized, unclear, isolated, small, ethnically monotone movement, one of which they advocate is bound to quickly dilute. So why do you think the mainstream media has an interest in, as you say, diluting it?
Well, if we have to see, first and foremost, who is mainstream media. I mean, the clip that you show from Fox News pretty much says it all. The corporate interest behind mainstream media, it's obviously against their interest to present what the actual movement's all about. It is very interesting that often they say, the movement does not have a clear message, when time and again we're seeing big signs and big statements from those same occupiers having a clear message. But the interest is obviously opposed to what mainstream media is all about, which is run by the same corporations and the same Wall Street interests that Occupy Wall Street is fighting against.
I want to play one more example that we can talk about in a second. This one is a little bit less in your face. Now, this happened in Los Angeles. It was actually a reporter with KTLA who was appearing live on CNN.
And we have to get this country back to we the people is what our Constitution was founded on. And exactly what we have to do is make sure we bring the jobs back to America and make sure that there's justice back in this country.
I don't think there's anybody who's going to say they're not in favor of jobs. My question to you is this: does this type of a protest really achieve anything at all other than disrupting traffic and making it harder for people to get to their real jobs, those who still do have jobs?
All right, so what do you say? This reporter says, does this protest even achieve anything other than, traffic jams and preventing people from getting to their jobs? What do you say to people who may agree with their message but not with their method?
I think that they have to see things in a larger perspective, right? In what the movement is all about. The movement is all about representing the majority of the people who do not have the voice to be represented on a daily basis. It covers what is most said as the 99%. So I think that the methods are pretty much in line with the message. And I think those that question the methods really have a problem with the message in the first place. I think in the clip that you show, it's clear that the interviewer has a problem with the message and is trying to attack the methods by which the message is delivered. And that's essentially what the problem in general. Another line that we often see is how the movement's not diverse. They're trying to pigeonhole it as only lazy, disorganized white kids, as Rush Limbaugh mentioned in one of his audio casts in one of his radio shows, when in reality those that are in the movement are diverse as we've ever seen it before, and they represent a larger scope. But there is a political agenda to fight back against this growing and growing movement. And the issue is the more that political agenda is advanced, the more that they try to quiet the movement, the more that they try to isolate it, the bigger it grows, and the stronger it grows. And we know that they're not going to stop. The motivation's there. The movement is real. The message is clear, and the diversity is very clear within that movement.
Certainly, it is interesting when you talk about the messaging war and what some of this corporate media, as you call them, they're trying to win the war by making these protesters out to be, sort of pigeonholing them into a very small group. Axel, what do you think about what many are calling stage 2 of this movement? The occupations were previously, sort of the embodiment of this movement. Now that many of these occupations have been dismantled, many of the people no longer allowed to camp out, some are saying this will dismantle the movement altogether. Others saying it will simply drive it into the streets. What do you think?
Absolutely. What we're seeing, and in fact, this is the representation of what we've seen last week. The more that you're trying to push the movement out, the more that the movement is actually going to organize, and it's going to create more avenues to really deliver the message. So maybe you're not going to see camps, but you're going to see more protests, you're going to see more actions, you're going to see more targeted approaches, you're going to see people move from one set of organization to another set of mobilization. And I think that that's very important. The key here is not that because they're in one place and because they have been dispersed that this movement is over, that it was only about a sort of occupation, but this movement has a real interest and real inertia behind it. There are particular messages that have to be delivered, and as long as those messages and that action has not caused change, the longer that this movement will continue.
And just real quick, Axel, I know you're in Los Angeles. We saw yesterday this 2-month anniversary. I was out at the one in D.C. About 200 people came out, thousands in New York. What are you seeing happen in Los Angeles?
We're seeing about pretty much the same thing. We had a protest. We saw a protest also yesterday where they blocked one of the avenues, Figueroa Avenue downtown. Again, showing that the movement changes, right? Because the occupation, they're threatening with also dismantling the occupation. So the message to it is that we still have the set of goals and objectives and items that we want to push for, and as long as they're not met, as long as we're not heard, you know, we're going to continue acting to promote that message. And that's essentially what's at the core of this whole issue and this whole debate, is that as long as the message, as long as the points that the greed, that the abuse, that the manipulation by Wall Street and its cronies have really impacted our society and have really created this huge gap between the 1% and the 99%. The more that they fail to recognize what is at the core of those values, the more that they cease to ignore what really is behind it, and the longer that this movement will continue in all of its capacities. Maybe we won't see occupations across the cities, but those might mean protests, those might mean targeted approaches, those might mean mobilizations. And as we go into very contentious
we are out of time, so sorry to cut you off there, but I do want to thank you for joining us in our Los Angeles studio, Axel Caballero, founder of Cuentame.